Namaste. I begin this presentation by offering my sincere reverence to all my teachers and to everyone who has contributed towards helping me open my mind further and truly learn to relish the bliss of being an ever-hungry yet modern seeker. What is Atma or Atman? Is it some kind of spirit-like thing that exists in everyone and leaves someday at the time of death? Does each person have a separate Atma, or what many people call the soul that moves in and out of bodies? It would be interesting to note that the word Atman in the German language means to breathe, and der Atem means breath, which is the air taken into and expelled from the lungs in the process of breathing. Well, Shankara Bhagavad or Adi Shankaracharya says, the whole of existence can be divided into two categories: pramana, proof, evidence, perception or cognition. The term pramana purusha means judge. And prameya, everything both abstract and material that is an object of knowledge, or rather something that can be perceived or conceived in the mind. This includes space, the galaxies, emotions, gods, deities, and whatever the mind can conceive. Prameya is anything that is demonstrable, provable, and also measurable. Whatever comes under prameya entirely depends on pramana. But pramana does not depend on prameya simply because pramana is self-existent. I'll explain. When there is no pramana, consciousness, knowledge, or awareness of something, that thing just does not exist. But on the other hand, pramana, awareness or knowledge, is self-dependent. Whether other prameyas or objects of knowledge exist or not, it is just there. It's always there. The interesting part is that even to claim that there is no awareness, knowledge, jnana or pramana, you need knowledge or pramana. There could be the world's most expensive diamond in a glass case on the table, but it has no worth unless someone says or certifies what it is, and if it is there at all. Two terms to be borne in mind before proceeding further are jnana and neya, which mean knowledge and the object of knowledge or that which is known, respectively. Being or existence is sat, which pervades even the formless and the limitless sky, simply because the sky exists, and the awareness of existence is chit. To emphasize that existence is the highest, we could say that even non-existence exists. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? To say that something does not exist, don't we say that that object is not there? In other words, the object is non-existent. Sat and Chit are inseparable because Sat is the existence of consciousness and Chit is the consciousness of existence. However, as this presentation is about Atma, I would like to go through the definition of Sat and Chit once again. Sat and Chit are two concepts in Vedantic philosophy that are always used together to describe the nature of reality. Sat is translated as being or existence, and it refers to the fundamental existence or reality of everything. On the other hand, Chit is translated as consciousness or awareness. Without Sat, there would be no reality or existence, and without Chit, there would be no consciousness or awareness of existence. Shiva is Chit and Shakti is Sat. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitu Nachi Devam Devo Nakalu Kushalas Panditamapi. Shiva can prevail only along with Shakti, without whom he cannot even move. This understanding is the prime requirement before delving into the subject of Vedanta. The Sat and Chit are seen as two inseparable aspects of reality. That all-pervading truth, which makes up the fundamental nature of all things, existing and non-existent, is known as Atma. In the path of Vedanta, there are no blind beliefs, but only reason and logic. Rishibhir Bahuda Gitam Chando Virvivideh Pratak Brahma Sutra Padaischeva Hetumadbir Vinishchitaihi. Krishna says in Shloka 1304 or 1305 in some editions, great sages have sung about the absolute truth in various ways. They have stated the truth in Vedic hymns and have described it in the Brahma Sutras through reason and logic with unambiguous evidence. As I often mention this shloka in my presentations about Vedanta, the very basis of Vedanta is reason and logic, asking questions, debating, figuring things out, and experiencing the truth, rather than hearing it from someone or from reading it from some book. In Vedanta, there are no blind belief systems, conformity, or obedience to religious codes or commandments. This is exactly like the way logic is a crucial part of mechanical engineering and, of course, computer science, which uses databases, computational complexity, programming languages, artificial intelligence, hardware, software design, and many other disciplines. The only thing that a conscious person knows for sure is that he or she is. They do not need any pramana or proof for it. One does not need others to prove or confirm to them their existence. They know that they are. Even animals and little creatures such as insects know, or they're at least aware instinctively, that they are in their bodies. That is the Atman. It is the feeling of I, or let us call it the I-ness without any attributes. In fact, that is Paramatma, but the moment attributes such as a body, face, character, likes and dislikes are added to the awareness of being or existence, it is Jivatma. And it continues to be Jivatma until knowledge frees it from the limitations of those attributes and the Jivatma realizes its Sarvavyapika, or all-pervading nature. The visible world is the form and function of existence, says my revered teacher of Advaita Vedanta. I'll give you a shloka from the Mundaka Upanishad. Divyo hyamurtaha purushaha sabrahmya vyantaro hyajaha aprano hyamanaha shubro hyaksharat parataha para. He, the formless spirit of the universe, is both inward and outward. He is beyond life and beyond mind, is luminous, supreme, and beyond immutability. Shloka 5 from the Ishavasya Upanishad. Tadejati tannejati taddure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadusarvasyasya bhahyatah. It moves and it does not move. It is far yet so near. It exists within and also outside all this. Paramatma is without life and mind, while Jivatma is the same Paramatma, but exists as if it were its life, body and mind. Can you recall the famous pot analogy of the Upanishads that great teachers and ordinary seekers like me too use quite often to explain this idea? Is there any difference between the space in a pot and the space outside the pot? That's the same case with the Atma. There is no difference between the Atma in a person, or rather in the form of a person, and the all-pervading self outside the body. When the pot breaks, does the space within it also break? No, it simply continues to be. When a person undergoes physical death, does their Atma also die? No. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Krishna says in Shloka 220, the self is never born, nor does it die at any time. It does not come into existence by being born. The self is constant. It does not get killed when the body dies. The Atma continues to be all-pervading, but the perishable body, before its death, that it had powered all the while, has now lost its function and is either buried or burnt, only to be returned to the elements. Here is a simple experiment that anyone can very easily do to experience the I in them. I'll give you the steps, which I would like you to come back to once you've completed watching this video. Pay attention to the steps, note them down, and carry them out carefully after the video. This is surely not some kind of meditation or something that is a hot product available in the spirituality market these days. Go into a room, shut all the doors and windows, wear an eye mask, switch off the light, and stand, not sit, in pitch darkness. It would be ideal if there was pin drop silence and if someone could turn out the light for you and also spin you around. Now, standing blindfolded, without moving your limbs or neck, do the following. 1. Try to orient yourself using your mind to visualize where you are and in which direction you're facing. 2. You will realize that this is almost impossible without the help of your senses of perception. 3. Strictly avoid any kind of physical movement, and only with your mind try to mentally look at and identify yourself. 4. Remain absolutely still in the same position for about 10 minutes. 5. Now, the invisibility of your body or anything else unblocks all your limitations of the mind of believing that you yourself to be restricted to the area within your body and to the physical space your body occupies. Try to imagine you're spreading everywhere like smoke. 6. Then inquire into yourself who it is that is thinking I am. Ask yourself, would you need someone else to come and tell you or prove to you that you are? Your answer would naturally be no, because you know you are. You are aware that you are. And moreover, now that you can neither see nor touch your own physical body, and the only perceptible truth about you right now is that you are. Great. You have now identified the self in you and have actually experienced it, independent of your body, of all your attributes, and of your surroundings. You have been the experience and the experienced and the experience itself. In such a stage, limiting yourself to a particular amount of space within your body would seem unnecessary. It is a stage close to sarva-vyapita, or all-pervading, being all-pervading. Gently open your eyes and start using your faculty of sight. If it's possible, use a dim light and then go to a brighter. Having felt yourself, you're now ready for the rest of this presentation. Here comes something significant and absolutely crucial in Vedantic studies. I just now said that you have felt or experienced yourself, didn't I? The term for self is Atma or Atman. That's right. You experienced your Atman, which, mind you, is not some separate soul, spirit, or some kind of ghost-like being, but the same all-pervading self, consciousness, awareness, or knowledge that says, I am. Unfortunately, it's one's ignorance of their limitless nature that hinders their spiritual growth and restricts them to unintellectual levels of duality. As I said earlier, you as the I am in you, whether you feel all-pervading or restricted to your mortal body, do not need the support of anyone or anything to say that you are. But to say that some object, the universe, God, or for that matter, your own body is present, you need cognition, jnana, or knowledge. Think about it. What would you have needed to do to perceive your own body without touching yourself when you stood blindfolded and motionless in the silent dark room? Of course, you would have had to move a limb or make some bodily movement to get a feel of your body. It means that even to perceive your own body, you need to put in some effort. But the fact that you know you are all the time is not the result of any effort, because your sense of I am is always there. To round up what I said so far, Atman, knowledge or the feeling of I am, which is always in the first person, is known as Brahmana. And that which is known, perceived or conceived is Prameya. The Atman never needs any sort of proof of its existence. It has always been there, will always be there, and it is aware of its existence. Even the mind, which is a certain pattern of thoughts based on one's gunas, which are again a result of genetics, upbringing, events in life, and so on, is Prameya and not Pramana. If one were to overcome their mind, what would remain is the self, or Atman, which until realization was the Jivatma, limited to a mortal body and physical space. Great sages have used the elimination method, neti, or the not this method, to eliminate all layers and arrive at the ultimate truth of the eternal, universal, all-pervading Brahman, Atman, self, or Paramatma. Tattva-masyadivakena svatmahi pratipāditaha neti shrutir-bhuryād anrutam panchabhautikam. Our own self is asserted through sentences such as that you are. Of that which is untrue and composed of the five elements, the Shruti or the scripture says, not this, not this. That was Shloka 125 from the Bhagavad Gita. In one of my previous presentations titled, What is Moksha? I gave a simple exercise of standing close to an open door or window, closing your eyes and looking at the sky and trying to find the difference between the mentally visualized sky and the sky perceived through the eyes. Think, can you imagine two different skies? Similarly, try to think. Would you be able to imagine two selves, like myself and yourself, when there are no bodies or anything physical to separate or differentiate them? Because if that were to be the case, the selves should be made of atoms, molecules, or ions, and they should be in one of the four observable states of matter, namely solid, liquid, gas, or plasma. Now let me quote a shloka that I described in the bonus video 101 of my 100 Bhagavad Gita Shlokas course. This shloka, which is usually a favorite one of any Advaiti or non-dualist, is the 12th shloka from the Shatashloki by Shankara Bhagavad, translated into English by Sri S.N. Sastri. Atma bodhe staran gosme mitigamane bhavayannasanastah samvit sutrani vittho mariramiti vasmendriyartha pratito drashtos myatma valokaditi shayana vidho bhakna ananda sindho antarnishto mukshu sakalu tanubratam yonayatyeva mayuhu. That aspirant for liberation who, when engaged in activities of the world, looks upon himself as a wave in the ocean that is Brahman. When just sitting, thinks of himself as a gem strung on the thread that is Brahman, like pearls on a string. When experiencing sense objects through the sense organs, sees all objects as Brahman, or Atman alone. And when sleeping, considers himself as immersed in the ocean of bliss that is Brahman, and spends his days in this manner, is the one who is established in the indwelling self that is none other than Brahman. Now think about the brief mental experiments you performed earlier. Recollect the near bodiless state of mind you attained in the dark room, and try to imagine being a wave in a massive ocean of which you do not see any end in all four directions. Isn't that something like what you felt in the dark room, with hardly any perception of your own body or limitations or borders of any kind? Now close your eyes and imagine you are moving like a wave in the ocean. You will be able to feel you're a wave, but also feel and know from within you that you are the entire ocean. Our quest is to establish and experiencing who or what is behind the thoughts and actions of a person. I exist, and it is only based on my existence do my eyes, visual system, brain, and mind exist and function. That which is all-pervading is Atma. Let us recall the second shloka of the Kenopisha. Kshotrasya kshtram manaso manoyat, vachoha vacham sao pranasya prana. It is the year of the year, the mind of the mind, and the speech of the speech, who is also the prana of the prana, and the eye of the eye. Here is a brief analysis of the process of perception. As we know, we have 5 sense organs: the eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and skin. They are the organs that collect data and send it to their respective systems, namely the visual, olfactory, auditory, gustatory, and somatosensory systems. The data is sent to the respective part of the brain in which the incoming information is processed. The senses are like information agents. They are also known as the instruments of the mind. Their job is simply to procure data and send it to the brain. The eyes, for example, are like press photographers that make pictures of whatever they see and continuously send all the data to the brain. The brain, which is managed by the mind, matches the images received with what it already has in store, and the mind uses the feedback from the brain and makes a final judgment of what the visually perceived object is. All this happens within the blink of an eye. But sometimes it takes longer. For example, when you see someone after a considerable amount of time, the brain runs through its database of old images to match the new image sent by the eye. It actually figures out the effects of aging on a person's face and arrives at a particular stored image. That is when you suddenly recognize the person to be someone you knew, probably when you were a child. The most important stage, which completes the process, is that of judgment and of opinion about the object perceived. This step is done by the mind, which, as I said earlier, is a pattern of thoughts based on gunas, which are a result of genetics, upbringing, events in life, and many other influencing factors. That is how the same object could appear beautiful, ugly, scary, or repulsive to different people. The question is, what is it that is beyond the 5 sense organs, the 5 sensory systems, and the respective sections of the brain that processes the information and makes them all function? What is it that powers these organs and their functions and is actually the experiencer? The organs and the brain in question have a beginning and an end. But what about all that which is above or beyond all this? That which you experienced in an almost bodiless state. Who or what is witnessing all your thoughts and actions? That's 1322. Krishna says in Shloka 1322, yet within the body resides the Supreme Bhagavan, who is also called the spectator, the one who permits, the supporter, and the transcendental enjoyer. He is the Paramatma, or the Supreme Self. Is the Supreme Self born, or does it die at any time? The Self of the I Am exists forever. It exists even before the existence of the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. That Self is all-pervading, eternal, indefinable, immeasurable, indestructible, and inconceivable. And that is what is known as Brahman. The I Am in you that you experience in the dark room, in your near-bodiless state, is Brahman, who is personified as Krishna, who has always existed. Natvevaham chatunasam, natvam neme janadipaha, najevana bhavishyamaha, sarve vaivadahabram. Shloka 212 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, there was never a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. We will also never cease to exist. Kshetragnyam chapimam vitti, sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragnayor jnanam yata jnanam matam mama. Shloka 13:2 or 13:3 in some editions. You should know that the kshetragnya, or the embodied self in all bodies or kshetrajñas is me, Arjuna. Knowing about the kshetra and the kshetrajñas is called knowledge, says Krishna. Now I'll ask you a simple question. Would a person who has attained such a high level of understanding ever go down so low intellectually and actually pray to some imaginary being and ask for what he or she wants? After the brief analysis that we just now did, don't you find all the things done in the name of religion so amusing, funny, childish, and meaningless? Think about it. If you liked your young child to grow up to be a qualified doctor or engineer, would you ask him or her to remain in the secondary school and not read anything further, not read anything beyond their grade 6 or grade 7 books? How pathetic it is for me to see fully grown, educated humans not only believing in imaginary beings, but also forcing their children to do the same. And that they call religion. I can understand when it comes to major organized religions such as the Abrahamic ones, but what about the Vedic Sanatana Dharma? How utterly demeaning I find it to be to call it a religion when there are no rules, commandments, penal codes, or any personal God in Vedanta, which is the highest stage of knowledge in the Vedic path. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita is 100% allegorical. Don't waste your time trying to find the historicity of it. Tell me, in which way would your spending time on such unnecessary pursuits be useful to you? Or so what if you found its historicity? How would that be useful to you? If you're a true seeker, you will understand what I'm going to ask now. When you feel lost in an unknown city, don't you ask local people for directions and then, using the information, work your way through to the place you want to go? Or do you, by any chance, settle down at the feet of whoever showed you the way, build a temple for that person, and sing songs in praise of them the whole day? I hope you watched my presentation titled The Two Truths of Life, in which I explained there is nothing greater than the two truths of life. Giving undue importance to anything or anyone beyond the two truths would be a sheer waste of time and can only contribute towards causing a person fear, pain, sadness, or even horror at the grand moment of transition from life. To conclude, let me list the highlights of this presentation. The self in you that you almost perceived in the dark room when you temporarily put all your sensory organs on standby mode is the Atma, which is not separate from the all-pervading self. There are no separate Atmans for different people and different beings. Your thought that you are a separate being stems from your identification with your body and mind complex. The way to learn to perceive, understand, and internalize this truth would be to practice imagining yourself to be a wave in an endless ocean. The Atman is never born and never dies. Whatever you can perceive, imagine, or conceive is known as Brahmaya, and that which certifies the existence of Brahmaya is called Brahmana, self, or Brahman, personified as Krishna. The most important truth: there is nothing beyond or above the timeless, birthless, and deathless eternal soul. All your gods, deities, and so on are Brahmaya, which are dependent on Brahmana, knowledge, or Jnana, which is the self, or the all-pervading Atman, residing in your mortal body. And that Atman is personified as Krishna. Remember Shloka 10:20. Aham Atma Purakesha Sarva Bhutashaya Sthitaha Ahamadischa Madhyamcha Bhutanamanta Evacha. Krishna says in Shloka 10:20, I am the self, Purakesha, or Arjuna, situated within all living entities. I am the origin, the middle, and also the end of all things. Separating Krishna from you and imagining him to be someone with a form would only be something that would belittle his all-pervading eternal nature. However, in Shloka 11:29-17 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, not Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yavat sarveshu bhuteshu madbhavo nopajayate Tavadevam Vasida Vanmanah Karyavrittibihi. Until the time a person has attained the ability to perceive me in all beings, they should continue to worship me through the functions of manasa, vacha, and kaya, or the mind, speech, and body. Perceiving Krishna as the formless and all-pervading Brahmana is the way to worship him, and not by pouring liters of animal milk on his vigrahas or spending entire days regurgitating Shlokas from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita without understanding any of them, or merely singing songs in praise of him without having the slightest knowledge of his universal nature. Avyaktam vyaktimabandam manyante mama buddhayah param bhavam ajananto mamavyaya manuttamo. 724. Krishna declares, foolish people who do not know my formless, exalted, imperishable, and supreme nature think I assume a manifest human form. Take to studying Vedanta, change your life, and give meaning to your life. Life as an individual, however long or short it may be, can either be experienced and fully lived, or could be spent believing in stories and imaginary beings and without experiencing living at all. The choice is yours. Krishna says to Arjuna in Shloka 1863, Iti te jnanamakhyātam guhyāt puyatram maya vimrusheda dasheshena yate chasita thakur. I have taught you the secret wisdom which is deeper than all that is confidential and profound. Reflect fully on what I have declared to you and do what you wish to do. Stay blessed. Jai Shri Krishna.